Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today we got some more 2A news for you. Now buckle in, okay? This one's going to be kind of lengthy and it's got a lot of information in it, but I promise this is something important and I think you're going to come away with some really fresh perspective on this type of stuff. This is just one example of us fighting back against all of this anti-gun tyranny that we see before us, especially when it comes down to the alphabet agencies just interpreting law and everything like that, or basically making up the rules as they go, that sort of thing, and with no congressional oversight. Laws have to pass through Congress. You know what I mean? Like if you want to change a law, you got to change the law. But obviously, what they've been doing is very different. So we're going to dive into this. This is an article by Mr. John Crump, a great friend of mine, and it comes on off Ammo Land here, and it's called "Uncovered Documents Should Destroy the Government's Case in the AutoKeyCard Saga." Now, if you're wondering what that is, we are going to provide some background here about Matthew Hoover and some of the stuff that he's had going on. I hope that you'll stick around. This is some great information. I think you're going to enjoy it. Before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at Firearms Legal Protection. If you're ever involved in a justified shooting, it's going to be one of the scariest things you've ever dealt with in your entire life, right? There's all these thoughts and emotions that go through your head. Should you talk to the police? Should you keep your mouth shut? Do you have your lawyer? Who's on speed dial? It can be a confusing time, and when you're having to deal with that strife, you definitely don't want to have to wonder who has your back and who doesn't. Firearms Legal Protection is like a prepaid legal service that puts that lawyer right in your pocket when you need them. So if you're involved in a shooting, they'll represent you and take care of you and make sure that you have all the legal resources you need to come out on top if you've been involved in a justified shooting. So check them out, Firearms Legal Protection, FLP. You'll see a link down in the description box below, and tell them we sent you. All right, this is a long one, y'all, so just bear with me. We're going to get into this. Gun Owners of America has released multiple documents that torpedo the government's case against Matthew Hoover and Christopher Irvin in the AutoKeyCard case. In March of 2021, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives agents arrested Christopher Justin Irvin for selling a credit card-sized metal card with an etching of the outline of a lightning link, a device that, when installed in a semi-automatic rifle, allows it to function like a machine gun. Irvin sold the item as a novelty item through the AutoKeyCard.com. Some of the AutoKey cards featured things such as bottle openers. The ATF claims that the cards are machine guns. Interesting. The ATF claims that since the AutoKey card has a picture of a lightning link drawn onto the metal, someone in theory could cut out the device, bend it into shape, and use it to convert a semi-automatic AR-15 into a machine gun. The Bureau believes that if a device can be used to convert a firearm into a machine gun, the device itself is a machine gun. Of course, the AutoKey card is not such a device, but rather a drawing of a device. It cannot, by itself, be used or installed on a firearm without significant further manufacturing, which is tightly controlled. At the time that Irvin began selling the AutoKey card, he contracted Hoover to advertise the product through his popular YouTube channel, CRS Firearms. Mr. Hoover never sold an AutoKey card, but instead simply talked about the cards in videos. Irvin's company, in turn, sponsored Hoover's channel. After the ATF arrested Irvin, seized his website, and charged him with selling machine guns, Hoover started a legal defense fund for the Florida man. Mr. Hoover was able to raise over $60,000 towards the legal bills of his former sponsor. After Irvin's arrest, Hoover did not advertise the product. More than a year after Irvin's arrest in April 2022, the ATF executed an arrest warrant for Hoover. The ATF claims that Hoover conspired with Irvin to sell lightning links. They further contended, quite audaciously, that raising money for Irvin's legal defense was part of that conspiracy on the theory that if Irvin won the case, Hoover would be able to advertise the card again. The ATF admits that Hoover never sold any cards, but maintains that since he promoted the AutoKey card, he was also guilty. That's a pretty scary situation to be in. I mean, one minute you're doing a video on a product that is perfectly legal and is not run afoul of any laws, and then all of a sudden someone just has a change of opinion and you're all of a sudden a criminal. That's kind of a scary situation. After Hoover's arrest, Gun Owners of America reached out to help him with providing him with an attorney and offered to make a financial contribution to the defense. Mr. Hoover turned down the gun rights group's offer of help and went with lawyers with whom he had previously worked in the past. Hoover's legal team has filed a motion to dismiss on the grounds that the NFA violates the Second Amendment based on the Supreme Court's recent decision in Bruin, which we knew this was coming. GOA, for its part, contributed to work behind the scenes on the details surrounding the Irvin Hoover case. Even though the gun rights organization is not part of the case, at stake is something far more significant than just the auto key card. GOA views the case as the ATF wrongly using its power, grossly overstepping the definition of machine gun enacted by Congress. The group views the ATF's attempt at prosecuting Hoover as stifling not only gun rights but also free speech. Through extensive research and use of the Freedom of Information Act, GOA believes it is documentation and reasoning to exonerate not only Hoover, but also Irvin by using the Bureau's documentation and examinations against itself. GOA has provided this documentation to Ammo Land News for our own independent analysis. Through careful examination and consulting with other legal experts, we can safely say that the documentation is game-changing and shows, based on the government's own documents, that the auto key card falls well outside of being a machine gun. First, in one ATF technical examination discovered by GOA, ATF reviewed a partially machined part of an AR-15 drop-in auto sear. The device had a machine sear mounting body and a small rectangular block of ferrous alloy with a sear template adhered. This item seemed to be a lot like the auto key card, except in that case, the sear mounting body was already partially machined, whereas the auto key card is not. Nevertheless, the ATF examined the item and determined it was not a machine gun and therefore totally outside the agency's jurisdiction to regulate. This item seems to be a lot like the key card, except in this case, the sear mounting body was already partially machined. The ATF examined the product and determined it was not a machine gun. Nevertheless, the ATF examined the item and determined it was not a machine gun and therefore totally outside the agency's jurisdiction to regulate. The ATF's internal NFA Manual itself might free the pair. The NFA Manual states that conversion devices are machine guns only if it was designed solely and exclusively to be used to convert a semi-automatic firearm into a machine gun. It further states that the part had to be produced for no other reason than to convert a weapon into a machine gun. The manual reads, included within the definition of machine gun is any part designated and intended solely and exclusively, or combination of parts designed and intended for use in converting a weapon into a machine gun. This portion of the machine gun definition addresses what are commonly referred to as conversion kits. The any part designed and intended solely and exclusively language refers to a part that was produced for no other reason than to convert a weapon into a machine gun. Illustrated below are examples of such parts. Those admissions mean that if Irvin designed the auto key card for any other reason than a conversion device, then it cannot be considered a machine gun. Nowhere on the auto key card website was it ever marketed as a conversion device. It was sold and marketed as a novelty. Some were sold as bottle openers. The prosecutors will have to prove that the reason listed on the company's website was a massive lie and try to prove that they know that what Irvin was thinking, and moreover, that Hoover never viewed the auto key card as anything but a conversion device. But there is still more. Third, GOA has also turned up a series of ATF letters concluding that unfinished firearm and machine gun receivers with templates affixed are not regulated. For example, an ATF letter from November 1986 addressing Sten machine gun tubes with templates attached explains that cutting out the template would allow someone to build a submachine gun with minimal effort. And yet, the ATF determined the items are not NFA or GCA regulated. This product is a lot closer to a machine gun than an auto key card, and yet, according to the ATF, is not a machine gun. Likewise, the ATF has ruled other firearms with templates attached are not regulated. GOA has also turned up documents showing AK flats with templates affixed. The ATF reviewed these and determined these not to be covered under the NFA or GCA. These items are unformed, even though they may have templates. They are not regulated by the ATF. The ATF considers these to only be firearms parts. They are regulated only for export. GOA turned up documents showing an AK flat with the template affixed, and the gun rights group also turned up documentation with AK flats with engravings. But still, there's more. Holy crap. Okay, fourth, another document turned up by GOA is the ATF Intelligence Bulletin about Swift links. A Swift link is another name for a lightning link. According to the ATF Intelligence Bulletin, ATF believes that a Swift link becomes a machine gun when it has a template applied and is cut in the approximate dimensions of a fully finished Swift link. The AutoKeyCard is not cut out and is nowhere close to the dimensions of a fully finished Swift link. According to the ATF's own standard, then, the AutoKeyCard cannot be considered a machine gun. This document is as close to a get-out-of-free-jail card as possible. However, okay, that's interesting. That's some very interesting news. But since when have these people ever actually, cared about anything that they've ever previously said? Right? These alphabet agencies are just a continuous series of bad opinions that carry the weight of law, that carry the weight of threats of violence, death, dismemberment, your dog getting shot, your door getting kicked in at 3 o'clock in the morning. You name it, right? It's a pretty scary situation. And I know I say that a lot, but, it's just kind of a weird situation, okay? I mean, it's just a novelty. I mean, anyone could cut that part out of a hacksaw blade or a piece of shelving, or you can make a sear out of a coat hanger. I mean, it's only a sear when it's a sear, when it's made into a sear, right? These opinions are not consistent with what the law dictates a part is, or a firearm is, or a machine gun sear is, or a machine gun, right? The old adage of once a machine gun, always a machine gun, right? Like when parts kits are imported. Well, they used to be able to be imported quite a bit. It's a lot harder to get foreign parts kits now than what it used to be. You used to be able to bring in parts kits with intact barrels, and all you had to do is just demill all the parts and reassemble the gun. And that was great for manufacturers who were building post samples because you could just build anything you want. But now sourcing barrels is almost impossible for some of these oddball submachine guns coming in out of places like Czechoslovakia or whatever. I mean, there's Rhodesian guns. There's all kind of random guns out there that would be an awesome post sample, but you can't get barrels for them. So it just makes the process for building the gun a heck of a lot harder because you got to profile and machine the barrel and get the correct barrel that'll work in that gun. Anyway, I digress. The point that I'm getting at is that, a machine gun is a machine gun and a part is a part, right? We are a firearms manufacturer. Okay. Yes, we make machine guns legally. We totally do, and it's totally fine. It's not a problem, but that's because we're a manufacturer. Okay. If I've got a random part sitting around that's not a machine gun, then it ain't a machine gun. Okay. So it's just random. It just seems like they're fishing for more and more and more, and they're trying to do incrementally every little thing that they can to just try to see which courts will take the bait and prosecute somebody over this dumbest little thing, even though the things they're trying to prosecute people over, or in this case arrest people for, are not even consistent with their own previous findings or the law to begin with anyway. And that's a pristine example of why we have to stay on top of these types of situations and why we have to put this information out. Because, these people are not operating in a way that is consistent with the law, okay? They're just making up the rules as they go, right? Chevron deference has been abused a ton by these people to the point where, now look, if it's a fine, all right, the original EPA regulations and stuff that I'm not going to get into a ton of detail on this because I'm not really prepared to talk about the legal precedents of Chevron deference in its totality right here. But let's just say, look, giving a gas company a fine over some little environmental issue is one thing, right? It's another thing when threats of violence, death, and dismemberment and jail are included in the situation. So it's just a trying and terrible situation where Chevron deference can be used in situations that involve life and death. And I think that's where the takeaway is, right? I mean, it just seems to me that if carrying out a law or carrying out the enforcement of a law carries the potential weight of death, dismemberment, getting in a gunfight, having your door kicked in at 3 a.m., having your dog shot, having your property confiscated, being sent to prison, then it would seem to me that law should have to be passed by Congress if it's that important that they're willing to kill you over it. I mean, can y'all not see where I'm coming at with that? I mean, that's what we're trying to get at here. It's just dangerous when you let them open Pandora's box and just go, well, we're just going to make all this up as we go and just hope on the other side that the courts will sort it out. And that's essentially what they're doing. Or they're even saying, well, you know what? The courts are in our pocket, so they're just going to do what we say anyway. Who knows? It's just scary. So wanted to share that. Great job by John Crump on this particular article. I know it was kind of long. Both the articles I've read here recently were kind of long. I apologize for the length. And look, I know there's a heck of a lot of people that are giving me grief about doing more of these political videos, but here's the thing, okay? We have to stay on top of this stuff. It's an election year, probably one of the most important midterms in living memory, at least in my lifetime of 40 years, right? So look, you have to protect your rights. You have to make sure that you're protecting the sanctity of the Second Amendment, or there's not going to be any freaking guns to do videos on if they have their way. If we just sit by and just, oh, bread and circus, what do you think's going to happen? Now, don't get me wrong. We're still doing a ton of shooting videos, y'all. We have gun videos coming out. Yes, we do. We've a multifaceted YouTube channel that does a whole bunch of different stuff. So don't worry. There's plenty of information and gun reviews and things. But understand that I am, trying to continue the flow of this information to the 2A community because it's very important to get the word out. The mainstream media is not going to tell you this stuff. They're going to bury it, right? Who do you think's really on your side? We have to have each other's backs here, okay? So, look, I'm going to put out the information that I feel is pertinent. If you want to watch it, great. If not, don't. But at the end of the day, I have to do what I feel is right for our community and what we built together and ultimately what our civil rights must dictate. And I believe in the Second Amendment as a very inalienable and distinctive human right that we're all born with. So whenever people are trying to touch that precious jewel, so to speak, I tend to go on the offensive because, that's not something we should support. Have yourselves a great day. Many more videos on the way. Thanks for sticking with me this long. If you're watching this long into the video, make sure you click that notification bell, subscribe, leave a comment, like. That all helps us show up in the search results a little bit better. Go over to Ballistic Ink and pick yourself up a snazzy new t-shirt. That's one way you can help support the channel. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do. Many more videos on the way. Don't forget to check out FLP in the link down below. We'll see you soon.